welcome back to my unique space. Today we are going to discuss the Archetypes of Literature by Northrop. Northrop was a Canadian literary critic, literary theorist, considered one of the most influential of the 20th century. His first book was Fearful Symmetry, a study of William Blake in 1947. With the publication of Anatomy of Criticism in the year 1957, he rose to become one of the most influential writers. In the essay, The Archetypes of Literature, Fyre critically evaluates literature within the framework of rituals and myths. The essay is divided into three parts. First, elaborates the concepts of archetypal criticism. The second discusses the inductive method of textual analysis, and third, the deductive method of analysis. So, നമുക്ക് first പാർട്ടിലോട്ട് നോക്കാം. That is archetypal criticism. Just as there are several ways to interpret literature, there are different approaches to literature, and one among them is archetypal approach. The term archetype denotes an original idea or a pattern of something of which others are copies. The archetypal approach interprets a text on the basis of myths and rituals unique to a race, nation, indigenous, or social group. Texts are studied, meanings are deciphered, and messages are conveyed in the backdrop of myths and rituals. The impetus to the genesis and development of archetypal approach is the social anthropologist James Tracy's The Golden Bough, which studies magic, religion, and myths of different races. And Carl Jung, in his notion of collective consciousness, states that a civilized man preserves ideas, concepts, and values of life cherished by his forefather, and these ideas are manifested in the myths and rituals of the society race. Writers and poets have employed myths in their works, and critics analyze texts to unearth traces of mythological patterns. Critical analysis of this kind of text is called archetypal criticism, and its best example is Wasteland by T.S. Eliot. And moving to the second part, that is inductive method of analysis. Here, Fyre states that structural criticism would help the reader to understand a text, and he decided to proceed inductively, that is, analyze a text from the particular truth in a work. He would deduce general truths, that is, from particular truth to general. It can be Othello by Shakespeare, can be trace some examples. That is, in Othello inflicts pain on himself due to jealousy, which leads to general truth that jealousy is a destructive sentiment. This is inductive analysis under structural criticism. It is important to maintain an objective stance while writing a text, and an author cannot express his personal emotions or make comments that would interfere within the work. A critic looks out to see whether an author maintains objectivity. This is a type of psychological approach where the author's personal symbols, images, and myths are incorporated in his works, and the reader is able to identify them. The author at times may be aware of the myths, symbols, and other features he has used extensively in his works, and the critic undertakes the efforts to discover them. The inductive method of analysis can be explained with the help of grave digger scene in the famous play of Shakespeare named Hamlet. Historical criticism and inductive analysis. The critic who conducts historical criticism interprets a text as the outcome of the social and cultural demands of a society in a particular period of time. The work is seen as a product of the cultural and social fabric of the society. Both the structural and the historical criticism are crucial for archetypal criticism, but either of them independently fails to explain a work completely. A historic critic discovers common symbols and images used by different writers in their works and concludes that there could a common resource from which the writers have derived their symbols, images, and myths. The sea appears to be one of the most common symbols used by the writers over the ages, and it could be considered as an archetypal symbol. And moving to part 3, that is deductive method of analysis. This is just the opposite of inductive method of analysis, that is from general to particular. Under deductive method of analysis, the critic proceeds to ascertain the meaning of a work from the general truth to particular one. Literature could be compared to music and painting because just like music that carries rhythm as one of its principal characteristics of music, and painting, pattern literature employs images, forms and words as realization of rhythm and pattern. While rhythm in music is temporal and pattern in painting is spatial, in literature both rhythm and pattern are recurrences of both the dimensions, temporal as well as the spatial. That's all. Here is the short summary of archetypal criticism by Northrop, and support me by subscribing. That's all. Bye. See you in another video.